Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode. Thank you as always for tuning in. It's a new week and I've got new videos coming your way, and I think today's video should be pretty fun. I've got a fairly rare Gibson Les Paul in this case today, and some interesting Gibson history behind these models as well. So hopefully you guys will dig it. Let's go ahead and get into it. I like to start out with the case, if it's cool. And this one definitely has some mojo to it. I'm not sure exactly what this case would have been used for. It's definitely old, but it kind of looks like an import case of some kind to me. So I don't know. You guys might chime in and let me know. But it's got some cool stickers on here from probably the 70s or 80s. Georgia, Rhode Island, what else? North Carolina. This is a cool old D'Addario sticker. It's cool when the case itself kind of tells a story of the guitar. So what do we have inside? It's definitely a player grade guitar. As you guys know on this channel, I love to document some of these crazy modified player grade vintage guitars, and this one today is no exception. So let's check it out, right? Okay. To start, I have to give a shout out here to these guys, Heyday Guitars, North Carolina. Pretty cool shirt they gave me there. But yeah, they were really kind. So here we go. This is it. This is the Les Paul monstrosity, or maybe you dig it. I don't know. But let's talk about it. Let me get this case out of the way here. So what have we got here? Well, when you first look at it, you might think this is a Gibson Melody Maker, which is a guitar Gibson came out with in the 60s, and it had this double cut look to it. But when you start to look at it, you can see it's a full-size Les Paul body. It's got inlays and binding and the whole thing. So this is in fact a Gibson Les Paul. And someone has gone in and chopped this, shoulder off, and I mean it's great for playability, but it kills the look and value of this one. And then they've gone in and done a custom paint job, which really is not bad for what it is. And you can see along the outer edges there, it's got some pinstriping as well. So this was probably a victim of the 70s or 80s. However, whoever did the job cutting this horn, I mean, really did a professional job, if you want to call it that. So you're probably asking, what makes this guitar rare? Actually, it just looks like a 70s Les Paul. We've got too many humbuckers, standard tail pieces here, knob setup. Obviously the switch route was here. They've moved it here. But this guitar is a really early reissue of the Les Paul. So as we all know, the 50s Les Pauls are the holy grails of Gibson guitars. Gibson discontinued them in the early 60s and then came out with the SG model, which was actually called a Les Paul early on. By the late 60s, the original Les Pauls were actually coming back into popularity. People were using them live. Jimmy Page, and the list goes on. And so Gibson reunited with Les Paul and ended up recreating the guitar in 1968. Those guitars are highly desirable because they were built using the same techniques, same methods, and a lot of the same construction. And later on in the 70s, that construction totally changed and the value just continued to decrease. So there's really a cult following of these late 60s Les Paul guitars, and especially the earlier ones that were very similar to the 50s Les Paul construction. There's even some conspiracy that there were leftover planks of wood, basically cut bodies and necks and stuff that were used. I think that's been debunked, but the conspiracy remains. So this one, actually, really, if we look at the back here, you can start to see the details that make it more rare and desirable Les Paul guitar. So it does have a 3-piece neck that you can see, and that's something that Gibson came out with, I believe, in 68, 69. However, they started out with one-piece necks, but you can see there's no volute here, which does make it more valuable. That came out in '69. And there's no Made in USA stamp on the headstock. There's only a serial number. So these two features definitely make it an early Les Paul. The serial number on this guitar is pretty faded and hard to read, but it does start out with 8500. So they were pressed in at this time, and some of them just, I don't know, you can't see them that well, but the serial number does put it around mid '69, and Gibson serial numbers are notorious for being all over the place. But however, with these early Les Paul models, and the specific features that they might have, they were changing rapidly, so you can actually date them to like within months, depending on what the features are. For a guitar with this serial number, no Made in USA stamp, no volute, I think it's right around early to mid '69. So some other rare early features on this guitar. From what I can tell, it looks like a one-piece body. And so in the '70s, they started doing this pancake body. It actually happened late '69, I believe. And I can see the seam where the binding is still on this guitar, but there's no center seam for a pancake body. So I think this is still a one-piece mahogany body, which is another desirable feature. And then another interesting fact here, the logo on this one. So there's no dot on the I, and the B and the O are still open in the logo, and that changed as well. It looks like we do have a early to mid '69 Les Paul. So within the first year of Gibson coming out and re-releasing the Les Paul. So what would this guitar be worth? Now, if this was an original early '69 gold top, which this would have been a gold top back in the day. An example of in decent condition on Reverb, they're anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000. I don't know that they're selling for that, but they are pretty expensive. They're not in the 50s Les Paul territory, but still pretty expensive. This one was for sale at Heyday, and I think they were only asking like $1,500 for it. It was on Reverb. You might have seen it for sale. There was like 100 people watching it or something like that, but I thought, you know, that's pretty reasonable for what this is. And also all the original parts are still left intact on this guitar. The original backplate, the original truss rod cover, everything is original. These are late 60s mini humbuckers, which by the way sound incredible, and I'm going to be doing a demo on this guitar by the end of this video. I just thought, just in parts alone, this is a pretty valuable guitar, and then the story of it, you know, I thought would be great to go over on this channel. And I'm sure there are a lot of Gibson Les Paul experts out there that know much more than I do, and probably can chime in here. And if they notice anything different about this guitar, or if they have any history on these guitars, maybe you can let us know. So what would you do with this guitar? That's the next question. It's almost like this guitar is more valuable in parts rather than together. I mean, the neck is original finish and unmolested pretty much, except for the little detail on the headstock. The neck alone could be used in a restoration on another guitar if you had a broken headstock or something like that. So it definitely carries some value, the board and everything. And then all the electronics, if the pots are correct, which by the way, I was told everything is original, but I like to do a separate video on opening these guitars up and just taking a look inside at some of the details and stuff. I'm into that. Some people are into that. The problem is, even though it's rare and desirable, I don't know how you would go in and fix this. I mean, you would have to have a pretty skilled luthier, you know, go in and create this missing part and do the routing of the switch. But you know what would be cool? A simple way to do this: strip it, put kind of an aged gold top finish on top, do a dark back, and just call it good, you know. And this would be a really cool player grade 60s Les Paul for the money, and take it back to the gold top. I don't know. That's still an option. So let's go ahead and play this thing. I'll probably use my Blackface Super Reverb because it's been sounding great lately. I gotta say, this guitar actually sounds fantastic. And like I said, if you guys have anything to add, if you have any information on these 60s Les Pauls, drop a comment. Let me know if you know any famous players that use them. Just chime in and we can have a discussion about it. So let's play it. This is 69 Les Paul. Oh man, thanks for watching this far, and thanks for your unwavering support of the channel. Anything helps. Just watching this video helps. The comments, the likes, all that stuff helps get whatever I'm doing out there. And really, I'm just trying to keep blues music alive, rock music, guitar music, and vintage guitars, the history of it. I really enjoy it, and probably play a small part in this, but at least I am trying, so thank you for trying as well. But I wanted to just leave a final note here for you guys who are still watching on how this guitar played, because I didn't really mention that, but the frets are really low, and so it definitely needs a fret job. It's kind of a fretless wonder feel. But the neck shape is kind of a thin C shape. It still has the wide nut, which is nice, but yeah, it's a thinner shape. Of course, with Les Pauls, it's I don't know how you play up here on a Les Paul. I mean, you got to work for those notes. But with the setup of the switch on this guitar, it's terrible. Let me say, it's like side to side first of all, and you go down here to get the volume, and it's just right there. So not the best design. And then also I found out it's volume, master volume, and then tone and tone, I believe, which that's fine, you know, but I think the switch, I mean, anytime you go down here to try to make an adjustment, it's right there. So I don't like that. I mean, it would make more sense maybe to swap these two. But I think it sounds great. The bridge pickup will literally rip your head off. So I had that, you know, about halfway back on the tone, but very nice sounding pickups. And of course I used no pedals or anything like that, just straight in. And the volume was about 4.5 on the Super Reverb. And I mean, it's pretty heavy. It is. You got to adjust the settings a little bit with a Gibson guitar versus the Fender setup that I usually do. So, you know, you can dial up the bass a little bit more and bring the treble down a little bit. And especially with these mini humbuckers, because they're definitely more trebly sounding than standard humbuckers. So you just kind of got to work with that on the settings, but stays in tune great. The intonation is great. This Tune-O-Matic works really well, and it's definitely a cool guitar. My biggest complaint, of course, you guys know, I'm a whiner about the weight of especially 70s guitars. It doesn't matter, Gibson, Fender. I think this one weighs 10.5 pounds maybe. So I've had back problems on stage, so this isn't gonna work for me just because of that. But someone else might find this to be a really worthwhile project, and maybe you go in and fix this cutaway thing and turn it into something special, or you just leave it alone and just play like it is. I don't know. For the money, it's really not a bad guitar. But you know, I hate to part guitars out, and I hate to see specific people online just parting guitars out. So I would hate to do that. But I will say I could use a couple knobs for my Firebird project, and maybe the strap button. So I don't think that would kill it. But anyways, that's today's video, and thank you so much for the continued support, and I'll have more videos coming out this week. Thanks for watching. Peace.